Welcome back to the Shabbos Treasures series. I'm Gila Ross, host of the Power Up podcast, and I'm here together with my co-host,
Rabbi Samuel Ross, and we are delighted to be able to share a weekly idea that you can take into your Shabbos and upgrade and beautify immediately. Enjoy.
We're actually going to start with a game.
Ah, that sounds exciting. It's 9 o'clock at night.
Anyone wants to play? We're going to start with a game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 4 different questions, and you're going to try and find out what of problematic behavior on Shabbos they was. Okay. So question number 1 is, if something spills on Shabbat, how do you clean up that spill? So my first question is, how you split it up, what could be a problem with cleaning up that spill?
Well, you're not allowed to clean.
What was that, Nicola? Welcome, Other Richard. So what we're doing right now is we're trying to see what possible category it could be a problem with a spill on Shabbos. What could the potential problem be?
Could it be gathering, if you're gathering it up to clean it?
Interesting.
You know, let's make it a little bit harder, easier for them before we actually give them answers. Could be Hayden, watch this space. We'll find out if Hayden is correct or not. So far, Hayden gets 1 point for effort.
Thank you. Thanks for being
an E for effort.
Yes, we're getting it a little bit competitive tonight. So number 2 is there a difference between how, let's say, we would cut up grapes versus, let's say, strawberries? Have I stumped you all?
You've stumped me, I think. That's a really hard one. Look at the baffled looks over there.
1 minute. Nicola, were you saying something?
Nicola, are you muted?
We can't hear you, Nicola, unless my sound is... No, we heard Hayden.
But it doesn't say they're muted.
No.
Weird.
No.
Okay, when it works, we will come back to...
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Darren had his flipping finger over the hole, I think. Strawberries, I think you have to kosher them in a certain way, so you have to do it pre-Shabbat.
You're good.
And grapes,
Ooh.
you don't.
Again, hang in there, wait a few minutes.
So she get 1 or 2 points for that?
You know, she's giving us information about how to kosher things and bugs. Okay, I think she's good.
We'll give her 2 points.
Yeah,
Nicola gets 2 points.
We're going to give you the answers. Let's give you another one. Oh, I'm making a lemon tea on Shabbos. Now, if I were in, I don't know, like a warmer part of the world, out in Florida, I'd be asking about lemonade. But I guess, with the temperatures this Shabbos, they're not that cold, but I guess not too many of you are going to make fresh lemonade. But what about making a lemon tea on Shabbos? What possible problems?
Could there be a problem with doing that?
You can only make lemon tea if it's not from a tea bag. You have to use tea granules.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is you're thinking possibly in the right direction. Tonight, we're not even necessarily going to deal with tea bags versus non-tea bags. That's going to be the next perhaps 2 or 3 weeks. And I just want to say at this point, I want to say the following. You have a lot of knowledge that you're even speaking about tea bags. That the fact that you're even aware that there are issues with tea bags. I gotta tell you something. We personally do use tea bags. Again, this is sort of off topic. We're looking at a different element. I'm looking more at the lemon than the tea. But in terms of tea bags, in a couple of weeks, you should just know that there are some ways, if it's put in the third vessel, whatever it is, there are some ways to actually perhaps build a tea bag. I just want to say that in passing. But again, you're thinking in the right sort of direction. We're looking more at the lemon. Tonight's a fruit night, right, Gemma? We're looking at the strawberries and the grapes.
So, do you have to clean your lemon and cut it before Shabbat to be able to have lemon tea?
Okay, so perhaps you're thinking about the cleanliness.
He didn't like to answer you. He asked you the questions first.
Okay.
Very good.
The 4th one is
Final one.
The 4th question, and then I'm going to open it up to see if you can figure out what the theme is for the question. And I doubt any of you are going to be able to be honest.
It's not as hard.
So washing up on Shabbat.
Again, we're not looking at the hot water issue. let's assume we're going to use cold water or hot water that was prepared before.
And you're going to use the dishes and all that.
Yeah, we're not looking at the preparation
What
issue.
other things do we have to bear in mind when we wash up? And it's a bit like this, the wiping up spills.
So you can leave it. Oh, so I'll let somebody else speak.
It's the
Right, Maggie?
soaking up.
Right?
You get use like the special sponge that doesn't, like when you rinse a sponge out, you like the squeeziness. I don't know what, you know what I mean?
Absorb.
I do know what you
Absorb,
mean. Okay.
that's the
I'm
word.
helping you. I'm helping you, sister. Absorb.
And
We'll
the
be on a team
metal.
together.
You're
I
good.
think
You're very good, Maddie. Let me ask you, what's that got to do with fruit? What's the common denominator? What's that got to do with a strawberry or
She said it without realizing it. She said it.
Oh.
It's the squeeziness.
Yes. And the medal, the winner of tonight's competition, the Shabbat Treasure champion is. All right.
And
so,
the fifth is
Everyone's a
like
winner,
pump and
baby.
raise time. Okay, so now that we've done those examples and Maddie's filled us in a little bit, maybe you'll give us a definition of what tonight's melacha
okay.
tonight's
So
is.
the melacha again, it's got one of those old English words which we don't use much in our regular way of talking, but it actually has a lot to do with what we do on Shabbos. So what is it? It's called threshing. And what threshing means, it's the extracting of fruit or vegetable from its natural inedible shell, peel or similar attachments. For example, it's breaking.
What does that mean?
No one knows. Let's ask them.
I
Anyone? Sorry?
He was
Oh.
socializing, ignore him.
Now you know why I asked Gila to try and explain this. This is
Right.
not easy.
It's breaking, like for example. Where,
Let's quickly
show you
share.
the screen.
Let us show the. Yeah.
So what's the fruit and veg got to do with washing up? You mean the dirty food left on the
You're good.
left on the plate, or the fruit in the washing up?
Hang on a
No,
minute.
no, but it's a good question. Okay, so if you look at where my mouse is here,
Gosh.
the stalks would be pounded or stamped upon to break apart the grain kernels from the stems and the chaff.
Chafe, whatever.
If you remember, this is the order of the bread.
That too.
We've done our plowing and our sowing and our reaping and our gathering. Last week we did the gathering. You remember that was what Hayden was alluding to. You went out into the field and the stalks. And now we're at the threshing stage, that the stalks would be pounded or stamped upon to break apart the grain kernels from the stems and the chaff. That's what we're doing this week. We're looking at the element. We're looking at the element of.
Right. I think it will become a little bit more clear as we explain.
But again, the best way we can say it so far is you're trying to remove the vegetable from its shell. The fruit or the vegetable is coming apart. Okay,
Let's give them some examples.
Let's give it one or two. Let's give you a really bit of a peculiar one, but you'll see how far this goes. Now, what do any of you have a custom to use honey on Rosh Hashanah? Like at the table, yeah. So I've got some nods, whether it's in the cake or whether it's with apple.
Yes.
So what about, would it be okay to use a honeycomb? What about a nice honeycomb? You go to the farm or you go to a specialty shop and you get a
No, it wouldn't be okay.
Excellent. According to what we're doing.
But you're separating it from its.
Right.
Yep, you're
Very
separating the honey from the comb. Yeah.
Right, because even if it's not literally a fruit or a vegetable, but what you are doing is you extracting or taking away the edible shell, in this case is the honeycomb, from what's in it. So there you would have to take the honey out before. You couldn't start cutting it and pressing the honeycomb on Yom Tov or on Shabbos for the honey to come out. Now maybe that's a bit of an extreme example, but once you see the extreme example, you'll see everything in the middle perhaps. Another classical example. Do any of you like peas? Oh, you're all English. You all like peas. Like, Hayden, you're South African. But you all like peas, right?
Yeah, you can't take them out the pods or.
That's right.
Oh, there you go.
You're right. But again, it's the same reason. It's coming from the same element. The other classical one, and we'll see this practically how it works, is the grapes. Squeezing grapes is pretty much as bad as this one gets. If you were to, like in its traditional form, you would get it and you would wring out the grape and try and get the grape juice out of it. you're really going to be accountable for this one. So again, so we're sort of starting with what's going on here. We're at the stage we're getting rid of the fruit of the vegetable from its natural form, which, by the way, is not just plant life. We'll see in a few minutes it can be human life as well. We'll have to see what some examples are. But we've seen our honeycomb, the peas in the pod, squeezing grapes from the juice. Now, it doesn't apply to everything, but we're going to sort of give you the classical examples where it could apply. Okay, so I think the question before we try, because again, what's squeezing of grapes got to do with threshing, the wheat from the chaff or the pea from the pod? So I think the real idea is that you're taking the grain you're detaching it from the husk, the peas from the edible pods, or the squeezing of the grape, the juice from the grape. Okay, now when we look at fruits, and this is like very, very practical. So whether you've got salmon on your table that you're trying to put lemon juice on, whether you're trying to make a lemon tea with a piece of lemon, whether you cut up a grape, there are three conditions when one can extract when can squeeze liquids. There are three occasions. So Gilla, what are the three occasions?
Number one, if you're doing it to improve a food. So Rabbi, give us an example of that, please.
So again, maybe a classical example would be if there's too much oil in your kugel, or something like that. So you could take the liquid out, because it's not a question of I'm not doing it for the sake of the liquid anymore. I'm trying to make my food more interesting or more healthy or whatever it is.
The second one would be squeezing liquids onto a solid food. So for example, you can squeeze lemon juice onto a piece of salmon. That would be an example. And the third one is a person is allowed to suck fruits or vegetables. So for example, if you're eating an orange or whatever, and you're just sucking the juice out of the orange, that would be okay.
So again, so we're going to give you some real examples here. We're going to look at our lemon tea in a minute. But let's say it like this, that you could, again, the idea is that you can't start getting a liquid out of something. However, if it's onto a solid food, then you're almost always going to be okay. If you're trying to get it into your mouth, you're trying to suck it into your mouth, the orange is going to be okay. Grapes and perhaps olives, but perhaps olives is less practical, but grapes is the classical exception to the rule. It's more strict. Grapes is, again, grapes, it's a certain format that it's made for wine, whatever it is, whatever the reasons are. Grapes are more strict. So the things that we just told you don't apply to grapes. You can't even start sucking out of a grape. You don't even squeeze it onto a solid food. Grapes is the one thing we're very, very careful about on Shabbos. So again, Gila asked before about the difference between cutting a strawberry and a grape. So a strawberry you could cut, it's not a problem. A grape, strawberry could cut even if liquid's going to come out. You could even, in theory, get your strawberry and put the juice, if there were juice, onto your piece of salmon or whatever the equivalent is.
Or your fruit salad.
Your fruit salad. But when it comes to a grape, you've got to be careful how you even cut it up. You're not supposed to use a regular knife. Maybe you use a very sharp knife that no liquid will come out of it. So grapes are the most strict of all. But the exception of grapes, what about regular olives? But again, it's the same thing with olives. I'm not sure tangibly how much olives are used in this particular way, but grapes, it can be more common to cut them up or whatever it is. You're supposed to use like a sharp knife, no liquid comes out. But most fruits are in a different category. Most fruits, which are commonly pressed for their juices, your orange and your lemon and your apple and your strawberry. So again, Gilla's given us some of the exceptions. So Gilla, to fill us in, what could you do with, let's use the example of an orange for now. What could you do with an orange if you wanted to get,
you could do a lot of things. You can suck it out with your mouth if someone wants to do that. You can cut them on a plate. You can squeeze it over a solid food. You can put them in a tea. You can scrape it out with a spoon. You can, for example, lemon. You can squeeze over sugar, which can then be stirred into a tea. That's funny.
That's a classical way of making a lemon tea on Shabbos. You want to get your lemon in it. So you're not supposed to squeeze the lemon into the juice because it's a liquid. So what you could do is, again, you could potentially squeeze it onto sugar. Get a spoon, put onto a sugar there, and then you can put it in, or you can cut up a slice of the lemon and place it into the tea.
What about if you squeeze the lemon juice into the empty cup first?
That you would not be able to do. So you in these sorts with fruits like that, you're not allowed to squeeze it just for the juice. So if you're literally squeezing it into an empty cup, that you can't do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So again, we've seen that with these with the exception of grapes, that there's a lot you can put on food. You can suck from them. You can do things like that. Okay, now let's go to squeezing the wet cloth. Again, who would have thought there could possibly be an issue? I've got a wet towel or a wet cloth or a wet sponge to squeeze out. So the truth is, it's the same principle. It's exactly the same principle. To start squeezing a wet cloth or a sponge, or for the matter, any wet fabric, a kid who's trying to, gets wet and starts squeezing it out. It's the same issue. That is the melacha, that is the work of dosh, of threshing, of what we're discussing. So what do? Someone has gone and spilled a huge amount of thick orange juice on your beautiful white tablecloth. What do I do now? What are my options?
Rabbi, I think you can soak it up. You could maybe put something over it to sort of absorb the liquid, and then maybe leave it, or just not attend to it. To
not wring it out.
Right.
Yeah.
To not wring it out. Yes, you could do that. Is put a towel on it and just not wring out the towel.
Yeah.
And
can I ask you something? You said that on Shabbos you can do something different in a different way. So does that mean if you took the cloth and it's full of orange juice and you squeezed it under your armpits, you're doing it in a different way, so then you're not breaking Shabbos?
Darren, just to clarify, when I don't recall doing things in a different way. The example that comes to my mind was by muksa, which was a unique rabbinic type of law to safeguard Shabbos. That in that circumstance, to do it in a different way, like to kick it or something like that, was okay. But that doesn't apply to almost anything else. With almost anything else, it's still, if it is one of the 39 types of work, it doesn't really help us to do it in a different way. Like it may make it in theory a little bit better, but it's not going to get us out of that. Okay, that's in a fairly unique situation. By the way, you know what the easiest way to deal with the spills and to worry about it is to use a plastic tablecloth. But
use a plastic tablecloth.
Yeah,
plastic on the floor.
Yeah.
So again, I think that is the point. We don't want to get to a stage where we're having to wring something out.
What happens if you wet yourself?
Sorry?
What happens if you wet yourself?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
You put your hand over the volume. What happens if one of the children have an accident and wet themselves?
So again, you've got to take care of, don't not take care of your kids. But
you change them. You just can't wring out the clothes.
Okay.
And again, it's like if you need to use a towel or a paper towel or something to do it, you just have to be mindful not to squeeze out the liquid from the.
Okay. Good. It's a good job Darren's got a wet sheet on his bed, yeah?
No comments. Okay, with that in mind.
Can I ask a quick question? Sorry about dishes.
Sorry.
Dishes.
Yeah, so could you wash dishes like with a brush, for example, that you
Great. Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
That's the very next thing we're going to discuss. Hayden's already got the answer. So, Gilla, fill us in.
Okay, so
how do you wash dishes on Shabbos?
The challenge with washing dishes is that if you think about what we generally use to wash dishes, which is like a sponge or something, the way we wash it is we are squeezing while we're washing the dishes, right? So what we can use is something that doesn't absorb and then squeeze out the water. So for example, there is you could use like a sponge that has a handle and then wipe gently, or you could use, they have these like plastic sponges. I don't know what the name of them are.
We'll show you next time. We're actually taking pictures and take them or something.
Yeah, I wonder if we have any there. I'll put a picture in the group. But does any?
I've got one. Wait, I've got one. Hang on. See if I can find it. Hang on.
Yes. But basically, what it is kind of like a plastic mesh like round thing, and it doesn't absorb the water. Right. So like you put the soap on it, and the soap gets onto the, but the water kind of just goes through it instead of like being absorbed and then squeezing out.
Scourer.
Yeah, it just kind of goes.
Is it a scourer? Is it called a scourer?
A plastic scourer, though, because a rake is not metal.
We'll have to send you a picture. We'll have to send you a picture.
Okay.
But you're getting the picture. Okay, so there is one final example I want to use, but before we do it, let's quickly go over the questions that Gila asked us at the beginning. Again, we've learned that there's this new melacha, this new work which we're learning about tonight, which is called threshing, which is taking away the fruit or the vegetable from its natural shell. We've seen the peas and the pods, we've seen the honeycomb from the honey. So let's go through the questions again. We'll ask you, what's the difference between grapes and strawberries? Is there a difference between a grape and a strawberry?
Is the grape because it's linked to sacramental purposes? Okay,
so you're good. So grapes is the most extreme. In theory, it's the same sort of issue, in theory, in terms of getting liquid out of it. But a grape is a more stringent type. It's grapes and olives. So the difference will be that, let's say, with a strawberry or with an apple or with an orange, you can suck the fruit out of it. With a grape, you can't do that. With any fruit other than the olive or the grape, you can squeeze it onto solid food. And with a grape, you cut it with a sharp knife that no liquid comes out. But with the other fruits, you could cut it with a regular knife. And if liquid comes out, it comes out. It doesn't matter. Okay, how do you make a lemon tea or Shabbos? Or cold lemonade?
And let's not worry about the tea part of it, just the lemon part of it.
Yeah, how do you get your lemon into your tea? How do you have a tea without lemon in it? Like, come on.
Don't you have to use, is it like a vessel? So you take the lemon and put it into something and then transfer that something into the tea.
Okay, so Darren, you're good. But what we're trying to say is that really we're not trying to get liquid out of something. And we don't put liquid into a liquid. You could put liquid into a solid. So the ways to do it is either you're going to put in the piece of lemon into the tea, or you're going to put the lemon maybe onto sugar, and then the sugar goes into the tea. But the lemon itself doesn't go into liquid. But again, if you've got a piece of salmon, not the lemon tea, then you can put it straight on, because it can go on a solid. Again, we'll send you the notes on all of this. What about washing up on Shabbos?
Soap, but not wash.
How do you wash up your dishes on Shabbos?
Use disposables.
Can you just rinse? Are you allowed to just rinse the dishes?
You're allowed to soak.
But okay, so again, we're not dealing with the preparation issue.
You're allowed to soak, you're allowed to rinse, but you're even allowed to do more, because soaking and rinsing doesn't always get all the dirt off. Yeah. So if you want to actually use it and it to be clean.
But
as long as you're not using a sponge that absorbs.
Again, I can't use a sponge, so what can I use, Hayden?
A brush or something Maddie was going to show us.
I can't find it.
It must... Oh, Maddie, come on.
She's still looking in the kitchen.
We'll send you a picture.
Stephen's away.
I'll send you a picture, but you can use like a plastic.
I can't find it.
This kitchen's too big for us to find it.
Okay, you can use something that doesn't absorb. You can't use a sponge, but you could use something like a plastic or a metal thing. Again, we'll send you a picture afterwards.
Is it called a scrub, Debbie?
I don't know what
it's like it's a red circle. My kids have probably taken it as a fidget.
Yeah. Well, it's lucky you found out tonight. You're not on for Shabbos. But and how do we deal with spills? Someone has spilt all over the table. How do we deal with that?
Soak it, but don't squeeze it.
Exactly.
Use a rag, put it straight on it or something like that.
When you spilt it, there's on that.
Finally, last but not least, we said it also applies to humans. So this is actually quite a common question, actually, in kibbutz. Again, how not milking, let's say, a cow. So the question is, but let's say cows absolutely have to get rid of their milk. Okay, so how they have to deal with it. But it can be a very practical question for a mother. Sometimes has to get rid of milk on Shabbos. Yeah, not when it's out of choice, because we don't do that, but when you absolutely have to. So the way that they deal with it is, I'll just tell you how. Again, we're not. They don't express it out of choice. You're going to get into the same issue. But they have to. They use the hand pump. But what they'll do is you can't put liquid into a vessel. So what they'll do is, because this is like an extreme case, so they've got no choice, they put liquid soap or something like that into a cup, and by the time the milk comes in, it's unusable. So that's showing you, like we started with the, with the honeycomb, like at one end, and then you've got like the mother's milk at the other end. So, and you've got everything in between. But it's just showing you how far the concept goes and the examples go of, understanding that liquids are not supposed to come out of their natural habitat, even if it's the cowl or the mother or the honeycomb or the fruit or any of these things. Again, there are ways to do it. If it's going into a solid, unless it's a grape, if it's on the floor, the spill falls on the floor, as long as you don't absorb, there are ways you can get around it. Again, we'll write them up and send it to you. But the point is just to have the idea that it's one of the 39 types of work. We're not supposed to be getting rid of the liquid from its natural thing, from its natural source. So
what about like melon? When you cut melon?
Yeah, it's fine. It's not a problem because again, you're not doing it for liquid. Liquid comes out, that's fine.
It's different, but if you're just cutting it and it just comes out, then
okay.
Yeah. Again,
good question.
Good question, Matt. Like in
Food.
but you couldn't squeeze it for the sake of it or squeeze it to get the liquid into another liquid.
So hold on, can I just ask, with lemon tea, if you have a slice of lemon in tea, does the juice from the lemon not come out into the tea?
I'm sure it does, but that's not a problem that it naturally comes out.
Yeah.
By the way, I just want to say this in passing, with a grape, the equivalent case with a grape would have been a problem. If you know that liquid is coming out of a grape, you can't really drink what's coming out of it, even on Shabbos. Just wait.
That's funny.
Okay, guys. More fun next week.
Thank you for taking the time to listen. I'd love to hear your thoughts and your feedback. You can get in touch with me. You can find me on Instagram. It's Gila Ross. And please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out. Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.